Hello, this is Wendy Rose, Rosie Isbell from the Christchurch Flower Essences, and this talk contains some of my thoughts about flowers as holograms. For the first part, I'll use gentian as an example of a flower essence. In his potions course for the Certificate of Homeobotanical Therapy, Dr. Brian Murray pointed out that there are 3 essences of gentian, and interestingly they all appear different in their indications. Ian White once suggested that the differences between the flower essences made in different parts of the world arose from the energies radiated by the sun at different locations. England, with its cloudy skies, produces flower essences that were quite different to those made in the strong, almost harsh sunlight of Australia. So one of the gentian flower essences comes from Claire Harvey and Amanda Cochrane in their Encyclopedia of Flower Remedies. Fred Rubenfeld, the owner of Pegasus Products, was introduced to the world of vibrational healing when he went to work in the diamond industry in New York. While surrounded by gemstones and crystals, he began to learn about and experience the healing effects of the stones he worked with. In 1983, he was among one of the first to open a mineral and crystal store selling gem elixirs in New York. He then expanded into the world of flower essences when he took over the Pegasus company. Fred has now created a phenomenal remedy bank which offers a vast range of over 500 flower essences and more than 300 gem elixirs, as well as starlight elixirs from the stars and planets and rare gas essences. Rubenfeld gives this indication for gentian. Gentian improves the ability to communicate on many levels, improves speaking abilities for deeper insights and connection with others, for future expression. Dr. Brian continues, then there is the original doyen of flower essences, Dr. Edward Bach, who made his remedies in England, where gentian was seen to be for depression from a known cause, together with weakness after an illness. Gentian was the remedy for the relatively mild downheartedness and despondency that follows when something has gone wrong. As soon as things start to go right again, this kind of despondency tends to lift by itself, but the remedy can be used to lift it sooner so that the person is better able to make things go right instead of just hoping it will do so. People in a gentian state are discouraged, but they will soon pick up again when things start to go right. Dr. Bach's description was, those who are easily discouraged, they may be progressing well in illness or in the affairs of their daily life, but any small delay or hindrance to progress causes doubt and soon disheartens them. Dr. Brian continues, one other example of gentian made up as a flower essence comes from New Zealand and is part of the spring range from Dr. Wendy Rose Isbell's Christchurch Flower Essences. In this, gentian is for connectedness of life, for an awkwardness, uncertainty and diffidence in relating to others, to transform and transmute the depths of one's personality and lead to a sense of connectedness to all life. It is my thinking that all these systems of flower essences are looking at the same essence of the gentian flower, but looking at it as a hologram and looking at it from different directions, but we're all looking at the same essence of the same flower. There are parallels between the Christchurch flower essences and the Bach flowers, and I've done a separate talk on this, talking about cherry plum, clematis, star of Bethlehem and crabapple. I've also got a couple of 3 comparisons with other flower essence systems which show how the same flower can be looked at in a different way in different flower essence systems, but yet we're still looking at the same flower and the same essence of the flower. One of these is Trillium. One flower essence practitioner asked me about the apparently different indications for Trillium as a flower essence. In the flower essence services range, Trillium has as its positive qualities selfless service, altruistic sacrifice of personal desires for the common good, and inner purity. The patterns of imbalance that it is used for are greed and lust for possessions and power, excessive ambition, overcome with personal needs and desires, and materialism and congestion. In the Christchurch flower essences, Trillium is for following the path of joy and knowingness, for rising above the limitation of family and social consciousness, listening only to the voice within, and following only the path of joy of knowingness, to transcend social consciousness, rise above needing acceptance, transcend judgment, go beyond the illusions of time, and live only for the fulfillment of the self. I was able to say to the practitioner that I thought that both sets of indications were of the same essence, namely rising above greed and a need for power and living an altruistic life. Interestingly, an individual person may go from the negative aspects of this picture to the positive ones, but on the way may have both aspects. Similarly, in a family or other group situation, there may be one person showing the positive traits of this remedy and another showing the negative traits. Another example is Buttercup. For the Buttercup flower essence services gives the indication as being for radiant inner light, unattached to recognition or fear. The patterns of imbalance that it is used for are feelings of low self-worth and inability to acknowledge or experience one's inner light and uniqueness. In the Christchurch flower essences, Buttercup is for living in a higher flow, for knowing the true value of one's gifts and accepting who one really is, so that one can appreciate, validate and support oneself, to help one work with the situation as energy and avoid being involved with personality issues, and so move forward easily and effortlessly. I think it can be readily seen that in both instances, the Buttercup flower essence is used for people who are unconfident and unsure of themselves, but who, by quietly acknowledging their own qualities, could become unassuming examples of gracious living. Another example is the Mariposa lily. In the flower essence services range, Mariposa lily is to help produce maternal consciousness, which is warm, feminine and nurturing. It is for mother-child bonding and healing of the inner child. In the negative aspects, it is used for an alienation from a mother or mothering and feelings of childhood abandonment or abuse. In the Desert Alchemy essence, Mariposa lily is for joy and freedom through being in touch with a sense of integrated self-mothering, carrying the mother inside yourself, opening the channel to the energy of the source, receptivity to human love, and healing the feeling of separation and alienation. I find it interesting when reading about flower essences from different parts of the world to see the thought or inspiration behind the essences and to know that each is one part of the overall picture. So a little bit about the essence of the essences. When I was creating the Christchurch flower essences, I did a lot of looking at other systems of flower essences, homeopathy, botany and mythology, and also the doctrine of signatures. The essence of the essences were the same in the various systems, but the aspects of the essences were different. It's almost as if the remedies from each type of flower were a part of a hologram, with each version being a representation of the overall picture. In my practice, I use a number of different flower essence systems, and I follow the development of others. There are some systems I feel drawn to and others that I don't feel I need to use, perhaps because that energy is not needed here or is already available. For the same sorts of reasons, I believe that I can only give pointers as to how other people can find their way into using the Christchurch flower essences, although I cannot instruct them in detail. It has been interesting for me to look back at the time when the spring, summer and blended flowers were made. I was aware of a much bigger picture of what I was doing, but felt I was being guided about the details of which flowers to use and which photos to take. For the first few essences, I had blasts of insight about how they would be used later on, but mostly, probably to make it easier for me, I was just told what to do and when to do it at a later stage. Later, when I came to synthesize the indications for individual essences, information about each remedy came back in detail, so that the wording about the essences could have as much resonance with future users as possible.